Hey. Time for the Out of This World story from rSpace. You ever meet someone who makes you question your own sanity and realize that's exactly the point? People like that don't just mess with your life. They try to mess with your head. Today on rSpace, if someone is making you doubt yourself just to cover their own mess, that's not love. That's a warning sign. Cheating wife stole my laptop and gave it to her affair partner. I made sure to show the world what they were up to. I, 35 male, have been married to my wife, Amelia, 33 female, for 6 years. We've had a typical marriage. We both loved each other immensely at the start of things, but over the years the intensity has dropped. I know I still love her a lot, but I can't say whether she still feels that way about me. Over the years, her affection has reduced. Though it's not like she hates me, she just doesn't seem to go out of her way to make me happy, the way she did in the first 2 years of our marriage. A lot of the marriages around me play out the same way, with the couple eventually just turning into two people who live together, and that's the reason why I say it feels typical to me. It's never stopped me from doing the sweet or romantic things that I want to do, though. I think there's a major problem in my marriage right now, though. We've had issues, but they've always been minor. At this point, it looks like I might be dealing with something much bigger, and I have no idea how I'm supposed to handle things. So this is partly me looking for advice. This whole mess started when I realized my laptop was missing. I have a work laptop and a personal laptop, and while I use the work laptop multiple times a week, some weeks go by without me using my personal laptop. However, if I ever want to do anything way out of the district of professional, like gaming or torrenting, I opt for my personal computer because it just makes sense to keep my work laptop out of all that kind of stuff. Just because I didn't use it often didn't mean that I couldn't keep track of where it was. I looked everywhere in the house for it, but I just couldn't find it. The next day, I even checked at work in case there was a day when I had accidentally taken it to work. It was when I realized that I wasn't going to find it that I asked my wife about it. The only reason that I didn't ask her earlier is that she had nothing to do with it on a normal day. She had her own laptop and mine wasn't in a place where it'd get in the way, so it didn't make sense for her to touch it or move it. And when I asked her, she admitted that she didn't know what I was talking about. She said it would be where I always kept it, and she seemed a little surprised when I said it wasn't there. She helped me search around the house and we both couldn't find it. She started saying I must have taken it to work accidentally, or perhaps I took it into the car with me and got it stolen from there. I was sure that neither of those was likely to have been the case. Then she said it was possible that someone might have broken into the house and stolen it, but that sounded ridiculous. It was the only thing that we had noticed was missing, and it was on the top shelf inside our bedroom wardrobe when I wasn't using it. It was such a specific place for a thief to go. Meanwhile, the person didn't steal the PS5 that was in the living room or anything else that was easy to carry away. Up to that point, I thought that she was just covering the possibilities regarding where it could have gone. Silly as some of them might have been, but when she said, "Were you even really still using that laptop anyway?" I had a weird feeling about it. I replied with, "What?" Because it sounded like an odd direction to take things if there was a concern that someone might have broken into our house. It was like she was trying to minimize the situation. She didn't say anything when I said that. I was expecting her to repeat it, but it was like she realized how stupid a thing it was for her to say, so she changed the subject after that. She claimed that she'd do an even more in-depth search of the house later to be very sure that it wasn't somewhere. I agreed to that, and I made it seem like I let it go in that moment, but honestly, I was so put off by what she said. There's no reason why your response to something going missing with you in your house is to say that it wasn't even being used in the first place, especially when the only likely way that thing could have gone missing was if someone physically trespassed into your home and stole it. It ended up gnawing at me so bad that I had to bring the laptop up again, and when I did, I took the risk of asking her if she knew what had happened to it. I didn't say she had it or stole it to fund a drug habit, but obviously I knew that it implied that I thought she was keeping something from me, so there was a little fight over that. I expected it, and of course, she maintained that she knew nothing about it. I let it go because I was already dealing with enough, and I really didn't want to have to deal with the whole entire fight starting over a laptop they could potentially end up finding. Because of that, I decided to do one last search. I confirmed the last time that I had used the laptop, which was about 10 days before I noticed that it was missing. I collated every single place that I had been in the house those 10 days, including the houses and cars of friends, and I messaged them to ask if there was any chance that I had left my laptop when I saw them. Each of them checked and told me that it wasn't there. I went to the 2 fast food places I had been to in those 10 days and asked if I had left my laptop there. They never had a laptop left behind. I checked the house from top to bottom again, and this time I moved in such a precise fashion so that there wasn't a single part of the house left untouched. In the end, I didn't find it. I knew that a lot of the steps I took were overkill, but I wanted to have no doubts. When I realized that it wasn't there, I knew that Amelia had something to do with it. I wasn't going to accuse her again because she wasn't going to tell me anything different from what she had said last time. And without proof, she'd milk it and turn me into the husband losing his mind. I was being gaslighted, and I knew that if I didn't find evidence that she couldn't deny, I would end up losing my mind. I decided that I was going to go through her phone. I knew that was where I was going to be able to figure out exactly what was going on with her. I waited until she was asleep, and she fell asleep with her phone in her hand. It was easy for me to reach over and grab it. We've never hidden passcodes from each other, so I was able to get into the phone right away, and I went straight to our messages. I had to go through a lot of unrelated conversations, but eventually saw her conversation with a contact called Jay. From the profile photo, it was a younger guy. He couldn't be older than 26. He wasn't a person she had mentioned to me before. I assumed that it could be some cousin I didn't know anything about, and from the chats, it seemed that could be the case because their last conversation, which they had the day before, was just about someone in his family who was annoying him. They talked about that for a pretty long time, and when I got to the top of that topic, I saw her ask him, "But how are you liking it though? Does it suit your needs?" He replied to her by saying that it was perfect and that he really appreciated it. This is the part that annoys me, because I wish I had had the balls to try again later that night, but Amelia stirred at that very moment. I exited the chat as quickly as possible as I could and dropped her phone beside her. I was willing to try checking again when I noticed that she had only stirred, but about 10 minutes later, she actually woke up and asked me why I wasn't sleeping yet. I just made up some excuse and waited for her to go back to bed. Make fun of me if you want, but I didn't have the balls to grab her phone again, at least not after that. I didn't see what they were talking about. I don't know who he is, and maybe I'm just being extremely paranoid, but I'm almost sure she gave my laptop to this Jay guy. Maybe he's a relative who was in a bind. Maybe he's her fair partner. I don't know. Again, there's no point in confronting her until I know for sure. However, I am looking for advice on how I can move along with this because I sincerely have no idea. Do I try to look through her phone again? Because that's such an unreliable method for me, since I have to actually feel safe enough to do it. Or maybe I should just not care. Look, just tell me whatever you think you can really help me in this situation. Insult me if you want, but just give good advice at the same time. Update 1. Thank you to everyone who shared helpful comments on my last post regarding my missing laptop and my wife, who I believed was behind it. I knew that I was going to have to check her phone again at some point, but thanks to all the comments, I got the balls to go ahead and do it. After all, there's nothing wrong with checking my wife's phone. She's not meant to have anything to hide. And on top of that, if I ended up finding what I was looking for, it would only back up my suspicion and give me the high ground. So a few days after I made that post, when she fell asleep, I grabbed her phone and I went straight to the messages that she had with Jay. I scrolled back up to the point that I hadn't been able to read past before, and just as I had suspected, it was clear that they were talking about a laptop that she had given him. Thanks again to the comments, since they said that I should record with my own phone while going through her messages, just in case I didn't have enough time to peruse and for documentation. I did that. The summary of everything that I found in those messages was that Jay was apparently a college student in a master's program. I can't figure out how they met, but from the very first interaction, they were flirty with each other, and they had started chatting 2 months ago. From all indications, he was my wife's affair partner. She's been cheating on me. It was clear because at some points, they seemed to revel in something that happened outside their phone conversations, and it was clear that it was when they had met up to sleep together. I counted at least 3 times that it had happened. They were somewhat careful not to be too explicit with one another. They kept it limited to, "It was so good," and similar wordings. I'd have to be stupid not to read that as confirmation, though. Apparently, like every college student, he was tight on cash, and he spilled beer on his laptop. He couldn't afford to get it fixed or to buy a new one, and he told her that much. He didn't ask her for help explicitly, but I was so sure that he knew that she'd help. She was basically his sugar mommy. She asked how much he needed for a new one. He claimed $1,000. She said she couldn't get him that, so she'd get him a spare laptop that she had lying around at home. That was exactly where my laptop had gone. Amelia had chosen to give it to the kid that she was effing, and when I was searching for it so desperately, she just played along and acted like she knew nothing. I was such a fool in her eyes for her to think that she had gotten away with that. Why couldn't she have given him her own laptop? She knew that I had one for work and one that was actually mine. To say that I'm pissed off would be an absolute understatement. I left the bedroom and went to sleep on the couch that night. I couldn't sleep the entire night because I was so angry and my mind was just racing. To realize that someone had betrayed you to such an extent is a hard thing to digest, especially when you've loved them and lived with them for so long. I thought I knew her, but this is my harsh lesson that you can't really know anyone. If there was something that I wasn't doing that she wanted me to do, She could have said it. I get that our marriage wasn't the best marriage that there's ever been, but quite genuinely, if she wanted to save it, she could have said something. I think that she was just done with it, and that's pretty much it. That's what I consoled myself with, because to think that despite everything I had done, I was somehow insufficient would break me. I'm going to confront her, but only once the divorce papers are ready. I don't want to leave any room for her to try to gaslight me any further. There's really no space for forgiveness for what she's done to me, and if I can really hurt her, I won't say no to Chance. I'm also going to try and find out exactly who her affair partner is because I don't want him to be spared in all of this either. Update 2. Adjusting to life as a single man when you thought that you were going to be married for the rest of your life is really hard. However, I have to say that while Amelia's, my ex-wife's, infidelity hit me hard, I think that knowing that I'm away from such a traitor and a horrible person just makes me feel a bit sense of relief. I'm really glad to say that I'm done with her and for life. There's a lot for me to go over, but I'm going to try to cover it all. While I was waiting for the divorce papers, the first thing that I decided to do was to contact a PI and give him Jay's phone number, which I had nabbed off of Amelia's phone. All I needed him to do was get a name and some social media handles. I explained the entire situation to him. I didn't need to meet the guy in person. I had no interest in doing that, to be honest, because I was sure if I saw him, I'd end up hurting him. When the divorce papers were ready, I got Amelia served while we were at home together. I told her to answer the door and she went. She had already noticed a big change in my mood, and I knew that she was going to understand what was behind it the moment she opened the envelope that she was handed. That was exactly how it played out. There was no screaming or anger from her when she opened it beside me. She just looked at me, really confused, and I looked back at her and shrugged. She asked me whether there was someone else, and she said it was so calmly that I might have believed that she actually wasn't cheating with the J guy. I knew that she was, though, and it seemed like another attempt to start gaslighting me. I shook my head, and I told her that she knew exactly why. I asked her to tell me where my laptop was, and her response was, "You're divorcing me over a laptop?" I told her that it wasn't about the laptop, though, yes, I would have divorced her over that if she stole it and then lied to me. I dared her to lie that she had no idea where it was, and she didn't have anything to say. I clarified that I wasn't divorcing her because she stole my laptop, but because of who she decided to play Robin Hood for. She tried not to react, but I saw her wince as I said that. I asked her who Jay was. She didn't answer fast enough, so I yelled at her to answer, and she jumped in her seat. That was the most reaction I had seen from her the entire time. I knew that she wanted to concoct another lie, and I didn't give her the chance to do that. I yelled at her again. She said that he was just a master's student that she had met at a fast food place in the city. He went to college in our city, and he needed a laptop badly to complete important work, so she gave him mine. She swore that there was nothing going on between the two of them. I asked her why I was meant to believe that when she literally lied to me for several days straight when I was losing my mind looking for my laptop. We did not have enough money for me to casually go out and replace that laptop. Why did she choose to take it to give to someone random? I told her that I knew they were effing. I let her know that I had been through her phone and saw everything. At that point, I saw her actually panic. I didn't know how she thought I had found out, but for some reason, she didn't think it was through the most obvious route. She tried to explain herself, but I pointed to the papers that she was holding and told her that there was no reason for her to waste her breath. I let her know that it was an absolute must for her to get my laptop back to me or I'd make sure to make her miserable. She cried and cried because she had never seen her sweet, loving husband as cruel as that. I won't even lie, it gave me a rush. She said that she'd get the laptop back for me. "Will you reconsider when I do?" I couldn't even believe she had the audacity to ask that. I just shook my head at her. I told her that she had 2 hours to pack out the apartment. She started crying even more at that point, but I didn't pay any attention to it at all. I was so done with her. Anyway, to cut all of that short, she packed out of the house and then she told me that she couldn't get the laptop back. She said she'd buy me a new one and that I could pick any that I wanted. I told her that I wanted the one that she had taken because I had used it for about 7 years at that point, and it had so much of my personal stuff on it. But there were things I wouldn't be able to replace. 2 weeks later, tell me why this witch told me that I wouldn't be able to get it back because her affair partner had sold it? I was an inch away from hitting her. I can't think of more than 2 times I've been that angry my entire life. It drove me insane, and I just screamed at her to leave, since she came to the apartment to deliver that news for some stupid reason. I had to drink to calm myself down that day. She basically just told me that my laptop was gone forever. That alone would have made me mad, but the fact that it happened because my cheating wife gave it to her lying crook of an affair partner? When we got to the actual divorce stage, I was ruthless. I chose the right attorney for the process. We didn't have much to split monetarily. We didn't have our own house, and we both had okay jobs. However, I made sure that the infidelity and my stolen laptop were major topics. That laptop was my property before we got married. I bought it with my own money, and I stored so much personal stuff on it. Yet, because she wanted to keep a smile on the face of the person she was effing, she decided to steal it and give it to him. And then the bastard sold it on top of that, to add insult to injury. I needed to be compensated for that, way past the point of my laptop's actual value. And I got that, along with the apartment. She basically got absolutely nothing in the divorce, and that would have made me happy enough. However, once things were finalized, I just had to do the last thing. I started with Facebook. I drafted a post describing the entire situation, tagging both of them. I included the screenshots and I posted them. I put the same post on a major college group page that wasn't private, and I put the same on one of our neighborhood pages. It eventually got deleted from the neighborhood page, but it stayed up on the college page for almost a week. I assumed they liked the drama it brought. It's still up on my Facebook wall. She called me, and the first thing she said was, "Really?" And then she went on a whole tirade about how I just enjoyed seeing her in pain. She said I never really loved her, or I stopped showing it, which is why she started to feel abandoned in the marriage. That was why she ran into someone else's arms, apparently instead of talking about it. Not that she was even being truthful. She just wanted a pity party. She told me that everyone was talking about her because of what I had done. She said that she had seen it reposted on an Instagram page and that I had made her a laughingstock. She said that if she offed herself, then I would be the one to blame. I just laughed at her and hung up the phone. I know a lot of people would back off from that, but I genuinely don't care. She's trying to force me to feel bad, but I just can't. She's made me feel my worst, and I've done what I can to feel a little better, and nothing is going to change that. She'll be fine, and I'll keep healing. That's all there is to it. You weren't paranoid. Everything you picked up was 100% real. All those weird excuses she kept throwing out. Maybe you took it to work. Maybe it got stolen from the car. Were you even using it anyway? That's not concern, that's cover. That's someone trying to build you a little padded cell of self-doubt so she can keep doing what she's doing without you catching on. That minimizing stuff? Classic cheater tactic. It's not just lying, it's a calculated way to make you question your own memory and judgment so you'll stop pressing her for answers. Gaslighting at its finest. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she was smug enough to think you'd never be smart enough to piece it together. Have you ever experienced something similar? Share your stories with us in the comments. Thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you next time.